Lassie back at the same time next week, don't miss that. In the meantime, some of your emails here. We had an email come through that regards Tickle and Patch and their joke section. We have one here from Rebecca, who's 7 years old. She says, how do you stop moles digging up your garden?
I don't know how to stop moles digging up your garden.
Take the spades off them. Makes sense, I think. Dear all at Milkshake, please say happy birthday to Christian Everston on the 25th of March. He's 9 years old. He comes from Stevenage in Hertfordshire. Lots of love from Christina King. And please hello to Elizabeth, Sarah and Thomas. A very happy 6th birthday to you today. Lots of love from Nana, Grandpa and Sweep as well. We're back in 4 minutes' time with more emails.
In 20 minutes here on HTV, we bring you the late night update of the region's news.
Tony Blair hints we're closer to joining the single currency. FBI swoop on British teenagers over massive internet scam. The European draws that could lead to a battle of Britain. And who's won the Oscars? A dramatic twist tonight.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Murnaghan.
Good evening. Tony Blair hinted today that Britain could be closer to joining the single European currency. It came after a series of economic reforms were announced at the European summit in Portugal. Mr. Blair said there was a sea change in economic thinking, meaning the euro was more likely to be successful. There was also a prediction of millions of new jobs if Europe gets to grips with the internet age. Here's our diplomatic editor, Robert Moore.
As the Prime Minister arrived for the final day of this summit, he had some reason for being so energetic. For this is a meeting that he believes has significantly moved the European Union away from excessive regulation and towards economic reform, innovation and enterprise. Mr. Blair also hinted that adopting reform and a US-style enterprise culture might hasten Britain's entry into the single currency.
And so the more that Europe moves in the direction of economic reform, the more that the single currency is likely to be successful.
This has been quickly dubbed the .com summit, an effort to ensure that Europe takes full economic advantage of the internet revolution. But if the talk here was of preparing Europe for the digital era, a mile or so away in central Lisbon, the scale of the task is apparent. Wiring up Europe and challenging US dominance of e-commerce is a daunting task. The EU leaders say the prize is job creation on a huge scale. Mr. Blair says 20 million European jobs can be generated over 10 years if the new economy is allowed to flourish. And it is that new economic vision that Mr. Blair hints may make Britain joining the single currency more feasible. Certainly he has described this summit as a sea change for Europe, shifting it, he claims, from regulation to enterprise. Robert Moore, ITN, at the Lisbon summit.
Here, two teenagers are tonight accused of being at the centre of a huge internet fraud operation involving 26,000 credit cards. The pair were arrested in West Wales after a global investigation led by the FBI. Ben McCarthy has the story.
At FBI headquarters in the United States, the activities of two teenagers from a small village in West Wales are now being investigated. It follows allegations that they hacked into different commercial websites around the globe, accessed credit card information, then displayed it on the internet. The two are claimed to have raided sites of 9 companies in Britain, the United States, Canada, Thailand and Japan, using the codename Curador. It's estimated that the alleged fraud could cost up to £2 million. FBI agents travelled to Wales, where the arrests took place. In a statement today, it said the two were arrested in connection with alleged intrusions into several e-commerce websites, theft of credit card information related to over 26,000 accounts, and the disclosure of that credit card information on the internet.
Online companies spend huge amounts every year on security and often hire ex-hackers to try and ring-fence what they do. But however secure you think your site is, the reality is there'll be some teenager out there somewhere who's already learned how to crack it.
Tonight, Dyfed-Powys police said the two 18-year-old men have been released on bail, but investigations are continuing. Ben McCarthy, ITN.
The Ulster Unionist leader David Trimble is preparing for tomorrow's crucial party vote, which will decide whether he'll keep his job. His challenger, the Reverend Martin Smith, wants to scrap the Good Friday peace deal. Tonight, both men came face to face in a televised debate. John Irvine reports.
Now live in studio, David Trimble and the challenger, Martin Smith. Mr. Smith, you obviously...
This evening, the Unionist leader and the man who wants his job went head-to-head on Ulster television. This is a battle between David Trimble, the moderniser, and Martin Smith, the traditionalist. Mr. Smith does not support the current political process, and he believes Unionists should never again share power with Republicans unless the IRA has disarmed first.
There's something basically inconsistent to try to impose upon a democratic community those in government who come with the force of arms.
For his supporters, David Trimble is the leader who has faced down the enemies of unionism, but now he faces an enemy within. Today he said he had inherited a party that had failed by habitually saying no, and that under him, unionist fortunes had turned around.
I know that what we've done is for the best for everybody in Northern Ireland. What is best for Unionism, what is best for Ulster, what is best for Northern Ireland, that is what we've tried to achieve.
Tomorrow's vote is important, not just because it will determine the leadership of Northern Ireland's largest party, but because it will also be a barometer of unionist support for the peace process. John Irvine, ITN, Stormont.
A record number of asylum applications were processed by immigration officials last month. Almost twice as many decisions were made in February as in the previous month. The Home Office says the backlog of applications has fallen for the first time in 2 years, but there are still more than 100,000 people waiting to have their cases decided. The black British athlete Ashia Hansen and her white boyfriend remain in hiding tonight after he was stabbed in a racist attack. Chris Cotter was assaulted because of his relationship with Miss Hansen. Here's Terry Lloyd.
Ashia Hansen and boyfriend Chris Cotter were driven away from a police station tonight to a secret address. They say they will not return home. The knife attack happened outside the international triple jumper's house as Cotter visited. He was stabbed and slashed across the forehead by a gang who taunted him about his relationship with the black athlete. The former long jumper, pictured here in the Daily Express, had earlier been warned by a telephone caller to keep to his own kind.
The attack on Mr. Cotter was specific to him, with absolutely no doubts that the incident is racially motivated because of the connection between him and Ashia Hansen.
Since then, Hansen, who's been in training for the Olympic Games in Sydney, has received hate mail about their mixed-race friendship. Other high-profile sports people have been targeted by racists. Frank Bruno's family was threatened, and swimmer Sharon Davis was sent a letter bomb after marrying black athlete Derek Redmond. UK Athletics issued a statement today saying it was absolutely appalled by this latest attack and totally deplored racism in any form. Terry Lloyd, ITN.
MI5 has launched an urgent review of its security arrangements after the theft of an agent's computer containing classified information. A case containing the laptop machine was stolen at a London Underground station. Here's Harry Smith.
The man from MI5 was on his way home from this underground station when the unthinkable happened. He put his bag down to give someone directions, and in seconds it was gone. The secret agent and 2 policemen chased the thief but lost him in the crowd. Also lost classified files from one of the most secretive organisations in the world. MI5, from its headquarters on the banks of the Thames, is responsible for Britain's internal security. The theft of this computer will cause huge embarrassment in the offices of MI5. It's been confirmed that the laptop contained classified information on Northern Ireland. That information will first of all be protected by the passwords needed to access the computer. The files are also encrypted or written in code which should be unbreakable. But security experts are amazed that the laptop wasn't fitted with a simple locking device.
Without this key, it will shut down the system. It will not let you start it up. It's like not having the key to a car.
Government sources insist that this theft poses no threat to national security. But MI5 here has been ordered to carry out an immediate review of how this sort of information is stored and how it's carried around. Harry Smith, ITN, at MI5 headquarters.
The Pope today delivered an address from the Hill in Israel where Jesus is believed to have given his Sermon on the Mount. There were extraordinary scenes as 100,000 pilgrims gathered to hear the Pope on the last main day of his tour. Julian Mannion was there.
According to the Bible, Jesus was followed by a multitude who wanted to hear him preach. And today, buses brought almost 100,000 people to hear this much-loved Pope. Near the place where Jesus defined his teaching with the Sermon on the Mount, John Paul's Pope-mobile took him into an ecstatic crowd. In this dramatic setting, John Paul is coming with a message for young people here and around the world. He believes that they face a choice between two voices. The voice of evil, which exalts the proud and the violent, those who make war, and the voice of Jesus, who said in his sermon here, "Blessed are the peacemakers."
You who made peace, you who are persecuted, blessed are you.
The deeply emotive spot where this Mass took place seemed to give John Paul's words and gestures a special power for his audience. John Paul's pilgrimage is taking on its own momentum, an outpouring of religious joy which may yet help to heal the wounds of this troubled region. Julian Mannion, ITN, by the Sea of Galilee.
The Queen continued her tour of Australia today with a visit to a town which gave birth to the nation's Republican movement. On the fifth day of her tour, the Queen went to the former gold rush town of Ballarat in Victoria, the scene of a bloody rebellion 150 years ago. Football and the possibility of English clubs facing each other in the finals of both the Champions League and the UEFA Cup remain alive tonight. Manchester United and Chelsea and Arsenal and Leeds were all kept apart in today's respective draws. Graham Miller reports.
It was a long and complicated European draw in Geneva, as these things always tend to be, but it was worth waiting for. Manchester United, the defending champions of course, were paired with their oldest rivals in the European Cup, Real Madrid. Chelsea were drawn the toughest opposition left in the last eight, the favourites to win this year, Barcelona. So the European Cup quarter-final looks like this: Manchester United against Real Madrid. Then in the other half of the draw, Chelsea will also play Spanish opposition Barcelona. And with the English clubs in different halves, they could meet in the final. The UEFA Cup semi-final also took place today. Leeds will meet Galatasaray of Turkey, Arsenal the French side Lens. Once again, a real chance of an all-England final. Real Madrid were the European champions in 1998, the year before Manchester United, the seventh time they've won the cup.
They've got world-class quality players within their team, and so they're going to be dangerous, but we're pleased with it.
Barcelona boasts the World Footballer of the Year in Rivaldo. For Chelsea and United, quarter-finals to look forward to. Graham Miller, ITN Sport.
Motor racing and the defending world champion Mika Hakkinen was fastest in today's practice session for the Brazilian Grand Prix on Sunday. The so-called Flying Finn had a closely fought afternoon session against Michael Schumacher, who was second fastest. And you can see qualifying for the race plus the race itself here on ITV. There are reports tonight which could lift the lid on the biggest show business event of the year, the Oscars. An American newspaper claims it knows who the winners are ahead of the official ceremony on Sunday night. With the latest, here's Howell Jones.
And the Oscar goes to...
First the Oscars were stolen, now the results seem to have been hijacked too. 2 days before the Oscars are handed out, one American newspaper seems to have spoiled all the fun. The Wall Street Journal polled a cross-section of Academy members, the men and women who vote for the Oscar winners. The results predict a good year for British talent.
In other parts of the world, I suppose there are other ways.
Michael Caine, according to the poll, will win Best Supporting Actor for Cider House Rules. But Caine's been around long enough to know that he won't have won until the Oscar is in his hands, whatever the poll of the Academy members says.
We have the whole house to ourselves.
But the poll says this will be the big picture. American Beauty, tipped to take Best Picture and Best Director Oscars. The director is the very English Sam Mendes. The Wall Street Journal suggests that Academy members have honoured him for his very first movie. And Denzel Washington is the poll's prediction for Best Actor for his role in Hurricane. In Los Angeles, the president of the Academy says the journal's poll was nothing short of an assault on privacy. 1 billion television viewers will soon know if the newspaper's predictions were right. Howell Jones, ITN.
Tonight's main headlines. Tony Blair has hinted that Britain could be closer to joining the single European currency. 2 British teenagers have been arrested over a global internet fraud operation involving 26,000 credit cards. And David Trimble faces the vital contest tomorrow to decide who'll lead his party. The vote could threaten the future of the Northern Ireland peace process. Tonight's financial figures, and the FTSE 100 share index closed up more than 140 points. On the American markets, the Dow Jones finished the day down 7 points and the pound was up 1/3 of a cent against the dollar. And now we'll look at what's making the news in tomorrow's papers. The Mail leads on the FBI swoop on those teenage computer hackers, saying a Welsh village is at the centre of the international fraud probe. The Guardian's lead story claims that David Trimble will declare war on Ulster Unionists opposed to the Good Friday Agreement if, as expected, he wins the leadership contest. Frank Dobson and Ken Livingstone are pictured launching a cancer research campaign. It also has that story about an American newspaper revealing who's won the Oscars. The Sun has the same story and claims that Michael Caine will get an award. It pictures the model and actress Elle Macpherson, who wants to appear in a British soap. The Times says Rolls-Royce is in danger after Volkswagen admitted starving it of funds. Pictured is Olympic gold medalist Dr. Kirsten Barnes, who's the first sports psychologist to be used by the Oxford University boat team. And the Mirror says model Kate Moss is in hospital with a kidney infection. And that's the ITV Nightly News for tonight and this week. From all of us here, goodbye. Have a good weekend.
Good evening. You'll get just as much use out of your sunglasses as you will out of your brolly this weekend. It's sunshine and showers for Saturday and Sunday. There were longer periods of rain around this morning. You can see on the satellite pictures from the early hours of this morning, thicker bands of cloud across Scotland and eastern counties of England. That's been moving away eastwards, and the weather front too has been moving from west to east through the day. That's the dividing line between the general cloud and rain and the brighter, showery conditions that are coming our way for the rest of the weekend. The low pressure always close by, just drifting a little further south and east as we go through the weekend. Now at the moment there are still quite a lot of showers around, but as we go through the night, the showers inland will mostly die away, so inland areas dry and clear, quite chilly too, down to just 2 or 3 with a few mist patches. Around the coast where you've got a wind off the sea, you'll probably keep a few showers on and off right through the night. And then for tomorrow, the best part of the day will be the first part of the morning. Lots of sunshine to kick the day off, but already showers in the west. As we go through the morning, the shower clouds will build up elsewhere too. The eastern side of Britain only having scattered showers, I think, but in the west, some heavy and thundery downpours to come through the day. Now, as for the temperatures, we've already said it will be a cold start, but in the sunny spells between the showers, we should see it recovering up to around 11 or 12, and 12 is 54 Fahrenheit. And then Sunday, a similar sort of day, a cold start for many of us, but lots of sunshine for the first part of the morning. And as we go through the day again, the showers will build up just as they're expected to tomorrow. So another showery day. By Sunday, northern parts of Britain perhaps seeing fewer showers, and that's where you may find the best of the sunshine too. Enjoy your weekend. Sunshine and showers. Good night.
Power Gen. Power, whatever the weather.
Hello, good evening. A Somerset woman's called for a set of railway barriers in Taunton to be replaced after she gave birth in an ambulance held up there. Rebecca Williams was on her way to hospital after going into labour at her home in Minehead.
Ellen Williams was in a hurry to get into the world and caused a bit of a panic as a result. Her mum's contractions were coming quicker and quicker, and Rebecca knew there was no time to be lost, travelling the 26 miles from Minehead into Taunton's Musgrove Park Hospital. Unfortunately, as her ambulance reached the outskirts of the town, a sight all too familiar to thousands of motorists greeted the ambulance driver. It wasn't just one train, but two, and a 10-minute wait.
It seemed an eternity waiting for that level crossing to go up. And then we drove off again, and suddenly the midwife said, "There's the head." So we pulled in at the side of the road, and she suddenly appeared, this little one. I just couldn't believe it. We were literally 2 minutes away from Musgrove.
The train might take the strain, but for Rebecca, it was a real pain. She ended up giving birth in this salubrious spot. The Silk Mills crossing holds up tens of thousands of motorists every week. One small business reckons its drivers spend a total of 10 weeks in the jam every year. Rebecca's husband rushed from work to the hospital too. He didn't have hurried though, because the gates were down again. He hadn't realised the ambulance had been stuck too.
Because I knew that they'd go through all the traffic lights and everything. It makes a bit of a mockery of that when, of course, that you get stuck, held up for 5-10 minutes for the level crossing, doesn't it?
This story had a happy ending, but Rebecca's grandmother had a delay at the crossing as an ambulance took her to hospital after a heart attack. The ambulance service said today the gates were an occupational hazard.
But it was all worth it in the end. Meanwhile, a Somerset man's given his wife the ultimate gift of love by donating a kidney to her. The chances that Ian Williamson would be a suitable donor were pretty remote, but tests proved that the couple from near Bridgewater were an ideal match.
Kay Williamson knew her husband Ian was Mr. Right from the moment the pair, who both work as cabin crew at Bristol International Airport, met 10 years ago. But she didn't realise how compatible they were until she began suffering kidney problems and was forced to have dialysis. None of her blood relatives proved suitable donors, but then her husband put himself forward.
It was amazing. First test was blood group and we matched, and then they went for more and more tests, and each test came back more positive, yep, no problem. We had some loads and loads of tests, and I never thought it would happen until it got more closer to the operation, and then they gave us a date for the operation.
Experts say the possibility of a husband and wife being a match is one in hundreds of thousands, but research has shown that if a couple are living intimately together, then the chance of them being compatible is much more likely.
It just seems a very nice possibility to us at the present time that this sort of tolerance that develops between couples isn't just a matter of the mind.
Kay has made a full recovery following her transplant operation, and the couple now enjoy an active family life with their daughter Rebecca. It's certainly true there can't be many couples as perfectly matched as Ian and Kay. Kerry Thompson, HTV News, Bristol.
A small but emotional ceremony is taking place at Bristol International Airport this weekend. Roy and Betty Howes will remember their son Christopher, a charity worker who was held captive by guerrillas in Cambodia and then murdered by them. He'd been clearing landmines when he was killed by the Khmer Rouge. Youngsters who've switched schools because their old one is closing in the summer claim they're being bullied so badly that many are too frightened to go. They've moved from Merrywood School in Bristol's northwest area, a school which is being shut after an Ofsted inspection. They claim they've been given a hostile reception at nearby Hengrove because of where they come from.
It's lunchtime at Hengrove School, but for many of these former Merrywood pupils, that's irrelevant. They don't tend to go to lessons very often anyway. They claim they can't face school because they're being taunted and in some cases physically bullied.
We're forced to truant because the teachers treat you differently, and so do the pupils. They don't treat you like one of the Engrovers. They treat you as a Merrywooder that have moved to Engrove.
Merrywood was branded a failing school, and in July last year the council decided it should be closed down. Most of the pupils who've left Merrywood joined Hengrove. The school admits the transfer of pupils hasn't been without problems. Former Merrywood pupils feel attitudes need to change if they're going to feel accepted. They're fed up with pupils saying new CCTV cameras that have been put up all around the school are there because of them. At times, they claim, tensions have reached boiling point. The school insists it's done everything it can to support the newcomers and says the majority has integrated successfully. Anouk Curry, HTV News, Hengrove, Bristol.
In football now, Chippenham Town play the biggest game of their 127-year history tomorrow. The club's got the perfect chance of earning a place at Wembley Stadium after drawing the first leg of the FA Carlsberg Vase semi-final at Vauxhall. Far from their usual crowd of just 200, tomorrow 4,000 people are expected for the game. And finally, there's a new inmate at Bristol Prison who's very young and hasn't actually done anything wrong. He's got 4 legs and his name is Oscar. He's also the prison service's latest weapon in the war against drugs.
Meet Oscar, the 9-week-old German pointer who's got a very important job to do. He's going to prison, but it's okay, it's all in a day's work. Oscar is being trained up to replace 9-year-old Black Labrador Floyd, who retires later this year as the prison sniffer dog.
Going to be a passive drug detection dog, which basically means you're going to search visitors coming into the visits area and searching them for drugs.
Oscar thinks his training is just a bit of fun. It'll take around 11 months for him to be fully qualified. Mind you, at the moment, he's still on the basics. Oh dear, has anyone got a mop?
Why did you choose him in particular?
Out of the litter I chose and looked at, he shone out of all the rest of them. He had the most charisma and character about him, and he was the most forward dog out of the lot, so I went for him.
Oscar is superseding Floyd. It's currently up to him to check out all those visiting Bristol Prison to make sure they're not bringing in anything they shouldn't. Oscar is a conscientious pupil and enjoys learning from the master. Most people know that the dogs have a superior sense of smell, so their very presence acts as a useful deterrent.
Well, Floyd's due to retire in August, and he's been a passive dog for the last 7 years. And I decided I wanted to train one myself, and the prison gave me the permission to do it. So it was time to choose a pup.
Oscar's looking forward to getting his teeth into the job. That is, once he lets go of our microphone.
Oscar's new job is going to be a serious one, and it's not to be sniffed at. Unless, of course, you're Oscar. Jill Impey, HTV News, Bristol.
That's it. Have a very good weekend. Goodbye.
The HTV weather, in association with Swalek.
Hello there. We've had a cold front affecting us today, and that's what brought the heavy downpours this morning. It had cleared us by midday, which allowed some brighter spells at the beginning of this afternoon. In fact, we can track that cold front on the frontal chart. Tomorrow it'll be across Spain and France and Germany, and that of course will take outbreaks of rain to those areas. And for us, there's a low pressure centre out to the northwest of Britain. Its associated troughs will bring showers throughout the whole of tomorrow, and some of them will be heavy and some will bring sleet. But let's look at the details for tonight just before we get too far ahead. We'll have some dry, clear spells, but there will be some mist and fog forming. Then later, cloud will increase again and some more showers will start pushing in overnight. The lowest temperatures there aren't too bad, 3 or 4 Celsius. It's the same thing all over again for the morning. Cloud increasing from the west, spreading showers across the whole region. Some of them will be heavy. In fact, we're going to have just about everything thrown at us. Sleet, even on lower ground, but more especially over higher ground and the moors. And the best news I can offer you is that there will be some brighter spells between those showers. And then by the afternoon, again, it's a real old mishmash with rain and sleet at times, but still the promise of brighter spells in between. And those winds will ease a little bit, but it'll still be a cooler day with temperatures only rising to about 8 to 10 Celsius. And if we have a quick look at the chart for Sunday, then you can see that low pressure is now centred right over Britain, so more unsettled and showery conditions. In fact, there's some pretty nasty stuff coming our way, nothing like last weekend. It'll be feeling fairly cool on Sunday as well, highs only scraping to get up to 8 or 9 for most of us, maybe a 10 over there further to the east. Now, not a huge amount of hope, I'm afraid, for next week either. It'll be staying unsettled, showery and breezy. Cooler too. I hope you have a good weekend with all that. Good night from me.